the meeting to order.
Roll call. Brown.
Here.
Cochran. Hoganson.
Here.
Nopschneider. Metz. Neal.
Present.
Paholka.
Yes.
Weaver.
So we have a resolution to excuse both Jennifer Cochran and Amy Metz, one for illness and the other for personal reasons. We have a motion on either or both.
I'll do a motion on both of them to accept their absences.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? Do we have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
You don't have to.
Don't have to have a motion for that
You
one.
don't have to have a motion. Thank you, though.
The agenda. Communications? We have an update on the farmer's market.
Farmers market, I went, had decent engagement, you know, people, had three people fill out, surveys. Other people had concerns about issues in the city. One guy mentioned that, having outsiders allowed on the board
No.
could cause problems, especially on the planning board. He's dealing with the, out-of-state guy wants to build some, apartments. And he doesn't think that they should have a seat on the board to the planning commission to be able to do that, so that's one of the comments I got. And.
You doesn't think the developer should?
Pardon?
The developer? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the citizen doesn't want a developer to be able to sit on that board.
The chances are they wouldn't anyway. I don't think they're gonna be that committed to being on a
Yeah.
board that meets.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I thought what we had proposed was that people who already owned a business.
We didn't tear it down that far.
Okay.
We just a general idea.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
So we would have to, if we decide to go with something like that, we would have to narrow it down so that can't. Because a guy might just come sit on the board, planning board for whatever it takes him to get something built and then just resign.
That idea is getting shredded so badly in the survey responses on it. Just based on our group and our intent to follow the feedback that we get, I think it's very unlikely that
How many survey responses are we up to in digital?
we had two more than the last time, so I think that puts us at 28.
Okay.
Well, two just recently.
And then we got 3 in
Yeah,
paper.
here,
So 30.
I'll give you these,
And how many people do you think you talked to?
probably 15. You know, a mix of citizens and, you know, outside the city. And didn't know that we were doing this. Most of them didn't know that we were doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at our Parks Board meeting, we just had people that were upset that like the wheelchair swing is like been deemed a hazard. And they were like, where's like the opportunity for community input? And it's like, our meetings are open all the time. But you can't make people show up, so. Do we have other discussion on the farmer's market?
Well, I have one thing. I did put in the sign-up sheet in your packets. There are still some holes. If anybody wants to, if you wanna look at it real quick and tell me if you are interested, I'll jot your name down in those real quick. Or you can email me later and let me know if somebody's interested in doing one of those weeks.
I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
You're going to Florida, right?
Going to Florida and then I got
And the
to
rock concert.
go to a rock concert. And then bring the grandkids back, so there's 2 weeks, 2 more. That's my whole month.
You can eyeball it and get back to me too. That's fine. So,
And Josh Pyle did say he'd put up a tent and a table for us.
Nice of him.
Nice of them. Let them know.
Yeah, where did you set up?
I can-
Down the road.
27.
Okay, cause yep, I looked and
June
some cheese from the.
Oh, we have it on here.
Yeah, I was only there from 10:30 till 1:30.
Sorry.
It's a pretty long time though.
Yeah, that is,
And I can cover
I don't think I got there enough late. Maybe I got there.
August 8th.
Maybe I didn't see it.
I will remind people that on the 24th, there is the splash pad grand opening at Hemlock Park.
I'm gonna be there for it.
I'm gonna be there too. I expect it to be like not a direct, like,
Are they having food trucks and stuff there? That was-
I don't think so. I think they said that somebody had donated pulled pork and that like maybe Res Life was donating like lemonade.
Oh, okay.
So it's like while supplies last.
Yeah, no, I was just curious, cause I,
Right?
It's the Lions Club and
It's
I
doing
think
work.
Res Life, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like there might have been
They have, like, a
somebody else that
cookout.
was doing something, but it seems like a good like soft, like, talk to people. City newsletter.
Do we want something in the newsletter again for the month of June?
Do the same thing.
You still wanna push the survey, you wanna push something else? I mean, at what point does that, same questions on the survey?
Stop pushing the survey when we start doing info sessions for the public.
Maybe we should come back to that, are we gonna go over a timeline a little bit and figure that out? Or do you want me to just go ahead and
Just
push survey, okay?
I think the email that Jennifer included, might answer that question for us. Not to jump ahead.
No, please.
So my understanding is that we're looking at a late February date as the date that we need to be prepared to hand off, right? Because that will give the state time, the AG's office time to review and us time to get it back from AG's office in time to be 3 months ahead of the November election. With that being the case, at what point, Mayor, maybe we should discuss at what point we feel that we need to move out of the soliciting input process and into the awareness raising process. Doing Q&A sessions for the community, that kind of thing. And how many months worth of that do we want before we go to finalize the document and say, we've gotten all the input, we've educated all the people, we're gonna educate as to what's in it. Because we can still be doing some of those activities while it's with the AG's office as well.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think if,
I agree, Stacy, we gotta start set something in stone, and this is what we're going with, and move on to the next topic. Just kicking something around every week is not doing us any good. We need to start setting, like you say, get stuff done so that we can have something to give to the people.
so I think that we're on the topic of the newsletter, and I think
The question is, do we want to give the opportunity for the survey one more time so that That's down to, do we wanna take
I think what Stacy's proposing
no input or not?
that on the newsletter, we would be able to advertise, come to this meeting if you care about topic 3.3 or,
And that gets the word out for the specific topics that we have questions on and want input on. And then we can also drive to the survey from that. We could still have a link to our website where they could get to it, but not necessarily prioritize that, but the actual topics.
I'd give them one thing to do, to be honest.
Yeah, but I don't know that we're getting enough traffic on the survey with the communication methods that we're currently using to like bypass pushing something else. I'd love to get more survey results, I just don't know that the newsletter is really
Doesn't seem to be
well
driving.
enough.
so, I mean, the question in my mind is, are we going to decide on the issues that we're gonna address tonight in such a way that we can that we have time to advertise it in this upcoming newsletter, which is going out.
It'll go out the very first part of June,
So, I mean, in
like June
theory,
1st.
if we did,
We can come back to that. We don't have to decide it right now. I just threw it in here.
okay,
So if you wanna have further discussion and see
Yeah,
where that
let's-
takes us and then put that in there?
let's try to save it for the end so that we
Sure.
can, not spend too much of Ron's time on. I don't think we have any committee report. Do we have another?
No, I didn't know if anybody else had any.
Okay. We don't have any committee reports? We don't have any old business? So we have the new business of basically interviewing Ron for the role of consultant. We have questions and concerns based on our previous,
Yeah. What's your background to do with city charters?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's not been my primary wheelhouse. I haven't sat on a charter revision commission yet, but I've assisted cities twice in doing just charter amendments.
Okay.
I know city law thoroughly though, and I've read through your entire red line document and have jotted some notes about some drafting style things that could maybe be attended to. As to the things that you've already worked on, I've only seen one item where there might be a legal issue. But what I'm getting to is the point that doing a charter revision is not much different than the charter amendments. It's, of course, a bigger process, but the same drafting considerations exist, so I don't think it'll be a problem at all.
Jennifer said that you spoke to the people on the team.
I have. I've spoken to George Ellsworth, who has been the sole person in the AG's office doing these reviews, I think, since the dinosaurs were walking the earth. And consistent with that, he's retiring at the beginning of June. So a new face in the AG's office for the first time. But he gave me some helpful information, both with respect to the checklist he uses when he gets a charter revision of what he needs in the package and what he's looking for. Gave me guidance as well on the timeline, which you alluded to earlier, which is that he suggested 6 months before the city council would have to certify the ballot measure to be on the November ballot is when we ought to first get the package submitted to his office. So that takes you back to about February. And then finally, he provided me with some items of this is the format he needs of the documents he needs to facilitate his review. In good shape there.
You say that you saw some things in there. What sort of conflicts do you have with the way we're doing it, how you think you should do it?
I wouldn't say conflicts as much as to categorize some things. There's some things that you've got some dangling sentences that aren't complete here and there. Some things that I would change the wording slightly, especially when the passive voice is used. I'd encourage drafting in the active voice more often. By way of example, there's a provision on when there's a special meeting on who is entitled to notice of that. And it says, these people shall be provided notice in such and such a way. Well, whose responsibility is it if you write it in that passive voice? It ought to say, the clerk shall do this, or something like that. The only one that I noticed a legal issue with is, and I need to check on it, is changing the deadline for if a vacancy occurs in the elective office, when an appointment shall be required. It now says 45 days. The proposition was to change it to 90. I need to double check on that, but I think that's statutorily controlled. Choice but to keep that 45 days, but I need to verify that. But more so, it was just some editorial stylistic things that some of the red lines are incomplete thoughts or something that I think we could improve on.
One of, I think our sort of the remaining tasks that's top of mind for all of us is we have sort of a wordsmithing committee that's going to go back through the entire document where we made edits and address all of those changes that we made, make sure that they're grammatical and tight. Is that a basis that you'd be comfortable working with us on, for example, if we were to go ahead and modify some of that language or revise it with per your recommendations? Would you be happy to go through and take a look at the revisions again, et cetera? And do you sense that there is anything, based on your review of the red line document, do you sense that we are in any way out of your, the scope of work that you would expect here, or that this is going to be a time-consuming or difficult?
The scope is fine. Whether it's too much or not depends on how promptly you move forward with not getting bogged down in particular areas or not. We're in May right now, so you're talking about what, 9 months or so. And it doesn't look like, I don't think there'd be a problem with getting through this in that time. Some of these that are highlighted in yellow, I don't know exactly what you have in mind yet. But the overall scope here is certainly workable to get done in that time.
Stacy, yellow reflects a passage where we have made a change, correct? Or is that a process, is that a passage that we flagged for revisitation?
Wording that still needs to be discussed. So some of it may be the wordsmithing group, and some of it might be coming to a consensus with the larger group.
Or like waiting on feedback from the community because we want to change something, but we don't know.
Preamble is yellow. That's a big one for us. Revisiting the business owners sitting on boards. I think it's probably a lot of our big topics.
Do you have the background of what happened with our last consultant? So, I think one of our concerns that we're open-minded about is what you think our process relating to working with you going forward would be. Like, do you think that do you expect to come to a lot of our meetings, communicate mostly through like written email, phone calls with like Jennifer? Does anyone want to like contribute to this train of thought? My head is not particularly sharp tonight, so.
I would simply say that we were somewhat surprised to find out that the process proposed by our consultant was rigorous in a way that we felt was unwarranted by the revisions that were evident in the red line document, and the document itself, from the standpoint of adding a bunch of material and dialogue to our process that really wasn't a part of the previous process, and that we didn't feel was necessary. Things such as glossaries, et cetera, that would have added considerable time on matters that we maybe haven't prioritized at the same in the same way that we have some of the critical issues in the document itself that we feel we still need to discuss. Are there any essentials to this process from your perspective, such as constructions of an appendix, a glossary of terms, other things that might be time-consuming that you would want us to take a look at now because you don't see us engaging in it already?
I think a glossary is overkill. You could spend a whole lot of time on that. And typically, I don't see that in charters. I shouldn't say it doesn't exist, but your table of contents you have, I find is usually sufficient.
Okay.
But to your earlier question about process, I don't see that I would need to be here on a regular basis. Most of the discussions you have are going to be substantive discussions about how you want to change a particular provision, provided it's not in conflict with state law. Is not something you need my opinion on. So I think a process would be better and more efficient for you if you were working on those substantive changes yourself and do the preliminary drafting yourself, and you just submit them to me after each meeting, and I can make suggestions as to what may be a better way to say that or draft it while retaining your substantive decision, but just adding my drafting. That's where I can provide my most value for you.
That's something that we could do after the fact by email or maybe in a summary meeting after we have had the chance to tackle a set portion of, the total feedback that you've given us. And how would you like to provide us with that feedback? Do you want to provide it to us in notes? Do you want to review it to us in an initial meeting? Do you want to give us something written? What would be your preferred approach there?
Well, what I would want to do to start is to give you a communication before your next meeting that comments on the existing changes you've made in areas where I see some improvements could be done drafting. And then what would be helpful, and is somebody the master of this document in the group?
Stacy,
She's right there.
Okay, so maybe Stacy would be my best point of contact, but what I would probably want to do, let me ask you this, are you doing this word processing software that automatically adds?
We have it in Microsoft Word.
But I mean, are you making these changes yourself, or is it like a automatic red line version?
I am making the
we
changes
should make it
myself.
here as we're in the meeting,
Okay,
as we go along.
I do not have track changes turned on.
yeah, okay.
It was requested to do it initially by actually making those strike-throughs by hand.
So what I would see is probably sending you initially a summary sheet that gives you the section number where I see an improvement can be made, and providing you the alternate language provision by provision. And then as this process goes on, I would see you each meeting providing me with the new edits you had, and I would then just focus on those and let you know if I've got any changes.
Stacy, is there anything that prohibits that document if he wants to edit it, like using like review in Microsoft or something like that to expedite his process? Is there anything about the document that actually prevents it from having track changes turned on? Okay. That might be the
On the
easier.
website, I believe it is a PDF.
Yeah, it wouldn't be possible on the website.
Erin holds on to the thumb drive that the document is saved on, so.
But we could export it as a PDF with those comments attached.
We could provide the Word document.
Yeah, that's
to
what I'm
you.
gonna say, it'd be easiest if I have access to the Word as I'm going through this
Yeah.
process to make them.
You have other thoughts, questions, concerns?
Give you a broader background. I've been doing municipal law for 26 years now. So just drafting in general, whether it's ordinances, resolutions, charters, all the same principles apply. So this is something I'm very familiar with.
I don't think I think we noticed as we we looked further afield than we had in our first search for a consultant, that there actually are quite a few people who are specialized in this exact thing anymore. Perhaps for that very reason, that there's more work in broader municipal contracts. So I have no qualms in that regard.
Have anything else that you think is, we should know or that you thought that we would ask?
No, I mean, it's, like I said, I looked at the areas of change. Some of them, I don't know what you're moving toward because it's just highlighted in yellow.
Yeah.
And so that's in the category of, okay, we're gonna change here, but it hasn't been yet. But otherwise, other than the one item I mentioned about filling vacancies, I don't see anything legally problematic, so, nor do I anticipate those are gonna come up in the categories. So I think it's mainly gonna be an exercise in just drafting, make sure it's clear as it can possibly be. And then finally, it's just nice to have a central person communicating with the AG's office to make sure this whole package gets them in the way they want to see it.
Got no other questions?
Feedback part.
Yeah, I think that the previous consultant, kind of as Ann was alluding to, like, I would go so far as to say that as we were kind of taken aback at the previous meeting where he was like, basically like, we're gonna start over at the very beginning. We're kind of like, whoa, like, we've been at this for a while. And so I think moving forward, we're keen to work with someone like you said, wants to focus on the spots that we've made changes and any other spot that would be legally an issue or an issue getting it through the AG's office and making sure that, you know, we get it there in a timely manner and that it goes as smoothly as it can. Are we thinking that we're gonna make a motion on something?
You absolutely can.
Hiring motion?
Would you like to, does the group want to confer separately before we do that? I'm comfortable if we don't, to be honest. I think what Mr. Reddick is describing is exactly what we're looking for. But if the group wishes to have business and have discussion and follow up.
Don't talk about me when I'm not here, just let me know.
I mean, it's an open meeting. He could just like get on his phone in the hallway and
Well, that's exactly my point.
I'm comfortable, but
Yeah, I'm gonna make a motion that we hire Ron Reddick from Michael Myers as our consultant,
Second.
and have Jennifer work on the contract.
Jennifer Cochran.
Jennifer Cochran.
Is there any discussion on the motion before we vote? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstaining? Passes.
Can't abstain on this.
Good.
Thank you for placing your trust in me. I look forward to the process.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here in person
Yeah.
Appreciate it very much.
and for the time you've already spent reviewing the document to familiarize yourself.
I can say that we have been very, very pleased with Brad and Mike Myers.
The firm's done it.
Everybody that we've dealt with.
Brad's an excellent attorney.
He's amazing, we love him. But even so, we also deal with some of his other partners on different topics, and everybody has been amazing, so. I don't think we'll be disappointed.
Practice.
That being said, Jennifer will begin to draft the contract. I assume
Couldn't hear you, pardon?
that Jennifer will proceed to draft the contract. I think we're,
Yeah.
that's not, and sorry, I should have mentioned before in case anybody was concerned. I spoke with her this afternoon and she was fine with us voting in her absence on this.
Okay.
So,
I know that she wanted to not have us forego this meeting.
Yeah.
Because we just can't afford the delays.
So she will proceed with the contract as I understand it, and she'll follow up with Mr.
And we've had some preliminary discussions with her already. We'd be using the same special rates we use for.
Flat rate for the city.
But no, it's our special project rates,
Okay.
be on an hourly basis.
Does anybody have additional questions or? I don't want to engage Mr. Reddick outside of his contract for any kind of review. So if your preference is, I think at this point, to be free of us, you're welcome to leave.
You're free to listen to us or argue.
If you wanna hear us, go back and forth over the,
Newsletter stuff.
Yeah.
newsletter and the other business that we have to tackle, you are certainly most welcome to stay.
Okay, are you gonna actually discuss any of the substantive changes to the charter tonight?
No.
I don't think so. I mean, we could, I guess, if people wanted to.
We
But-
could go through the yellow highlighted points and clarify what is in question.
That we
there,
could do.
So that Mr. Reddick has some more context, but again, I don't wanna ask him to work outside of
Yeah.
the contract,
And I do want to nail down the newsletter thing. Because we have discussion already kind of on the table on that, and it's on the agenda.
Let's work on that.
So, and it's like, if we get through that really quick and there's time, then like, I'd be like, okay, let's work on something else. But I also would like Jennifer Cochran and, Amy to be able to participate, as much as possible, to have as many of our members
Does work on
present
the charter,
for
I think.
charter-related stuff. At some points, obviously, like today, like, hey, we're down a few people, we still have stuff to do, we gotta get through it, but, ideally, we would have everyone present for substantive discussions. Is my thought.
I agree with you, that's very sound.
But like, I'm, just, like I said, I'm just voicing my own ideas.
Let's work on the,
Talk about the timeline of the newsletter.
Provided we get all the contractual details worked out with Jennifer, which I'm sure we will. Would it be helpful for me before the next meeting to have a summary of the few places where I would?
yes, that would be great.
Fantastic.
Yeah, if we knew what the problem was, that was part of the last guy, he came in with a bunch of stuff and he had a big notebook with stuff and we couldn't keep up with what he was saying.
Well, none of it was directly related to the changes that we had made. It was, even our charter specifically.
Your meeting is consistent second Wednesdays of the month.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You have a time in advance of that to put your agenda together where you'd like to get comments in advance of that.
We usually send them out on the Friday before, so.
Somebody's been very consistent with sending an email on it.
What's that?
Said somebody's been very consistent with sending that out.
I try.
We appreciate.
I can, well, I guess Jennifer's drafted up the contract. That's not something that
I
Becca
think,
Myers is doing?
and I think she is just working with them on the details.
Okay.
And she's drafting the
I was
contract
gonna say.
herself.
I can always send you the document as well, in a Word document, so that it's easier for you too.
This
This
itself.
stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great, because, it'd speed it real up if I can cut and paste out of it.
Right.
Should we go through and annotate the yellow sections with a description of what changes in question there before we send that off so that Mr. Reddick has context?
Could do that.
So maybe after we have our newsletter conversation, we can go through and do a quick note summary.
That seems like a good use of our time.
Jennifer, could you give me a heads up on the term motion, so I got an idea what the nature of that might be.
Yeah, that's one of the big ones. That and the, spending limits issue in,
Purchasing,
the purchasing in section, whatever it is.
8.10.
That's it.
If there's nothing further from Mr. Reddick, I'd like to release you unless anybody else has
Yeah.
something else.
Thank you very much for.
I'm glad to be up here. Nice trip to Big Rapids. Haven't been up here in a while.
We really appreciate you joining us.
Very well.
Very valuable.
All right, well, again, I thank you for your request and look forward to a smoother process going forward.
I hope so.
So do we.
Very pleased that you were willing to step in.
Good night, everybody.
Safe travels.
Safe travels.
So, we're good to talk about the newsletter plan.
Yeah.
It looks like Stacy. Do you think this is a comprehensive list, Stacy, of the issues that we need to tackle? Or is this just off the top of your head?
This was the big ones off the top of my head.
Okay,
I think they're probably the ones we'll end up focusing the majority of our time on.
yeah,
But certain things, like if most of the feedback we're getting is that business owners should not be members of city boards with the exception of like the DBA. That could just be based on feedback, we're shutting this down, we're gonna leave it as is, or just make it as a seat and move on. So we might be able to do several topics at a time.
do you think it's worth trying to scroll through, and look at like so basically.
One count of those topics or go
Well, I
section
mean,
by
we're basically
section.
looking for the yellow spots, right? No yellow spots, we must be good. Oh dang.
Preamble.
I still think we're gonna wait until
Till the very end.
the very end for
Yeah,
that.
and you already have that listed.
So that's the business owners.
Okay, and you have that listed. That's good. Batting 1,000 so far. You must have one of those steel trap mines.
We should stop keeping track at this point.
I have one of those like tin aluminum foil trap mines.
I apologize for my constant sniffling.
4.9 I don't think is on my list, but we do need to revisit that.
It is on here.
Does that need to be, is that a rewrite or does that section just need to be yellow?
That was a brand new
New
section.
brand.
Added. Oh, that's the section, okay.
Yeah, and we'll need to think that one through, and that would be a good one to get some legal advice on. Should I highlight this in yellow?
I would say so, and then we can just have it flagged so that when we go to make notes in the corner, we can just say we were,
Yeah.
we were recommended to add this, you recommend, so that this language is unproven, sort of.
Alright, and then we have the election stuff under 5.5.
4 for 4.
Said stop keeping track. Eight point one is on my list, but it is not yellow.
Yeah, and I think we should make it yellow.
8.1 or
So just
8.10?
the frog in your pocket.
8.1 is your-
I was like, purse.
So 8.10. It's on here.
Yeah, let's.
Yeah, it's just not yellow.
It's just
So
not
I don't
yellow.
know if that's, I don't know that it necessarily needs to.
Yellow,
I don't think we actually revised the section to did we actually revise the section to reflect the new process?
No,
No, I think we need to revisit that.
So let's
Foster
highlight
had
it.
a nice email with some considerations and things that we might wanna put in there.
Highlight
and,
it
and then the
yellow
commission
and
had like
acknowledge that.
sent us something as well that, so,
I am just gonna highlight this instead of all the Yes, because we might end up replacing a good majority of that. All right, 9.3, removal of the Board of Review. So then dates, changing meetings and things like that. Also definitions for specific things.
And I think with September, we were just looking for why, right? And does that continue to be accurate?
And I think that we had like there's other dates throughout the document that it's like, this stuff happens in September, but this other one happens in like June and it's like, why are there all these different months and dates and,
I have the list of, a lot of that is by state law.
yeah.
Some of those, they cannot be changed.
Okay.
Yes, and I think we just need to, at some point, cross-reference and say, these are gonna stay, and then for these other ones that aren't statute, does this still work within the process? The Parks and Rec Board, I believe this, new text came from Heather specifically. We have not revisited it yet.
Let's highlight it yellow.
Yeah.
And we can just note to him that we're considering new language. That's just our time frame at the end that needs to. So I kind of make that like sort of maybe a grand total of 10 big issues, none of which I think would represent the, the work of an entire evening or entire meeting, so.
Well,
Some of them, but I would expect the purchasing one.
yeah, that one.
Although
could
we
take
may
more than one.
decide to do like a subcommittee for that. And it could be, rather than choosing a topic for the next meeting to go through, it could be the next meeting, we're gonna go through all of these, figure out what we need to do, who we need to contact, and like get everything in order, and then start running through each thing, so that way we have done the prep work for them, to try to get them finished.
I would think maybe we could just say in the newsletter, we plan on covering at least section 3.3 and 4.9, and if we get through them, we'll keep going into the next, we could, potentially have a list, just like you've provided already. These are the topics that we really need to cover. We expect to get through the first two. The next month, assuming we got through 2 or 3 newsletter, we just omit those ones.
What would be really nice to have is an in-order description of the yellow highlighted passages, basically what we're gonna provide to him. A summary of the issue at hand in each passage. And then in the newsletter, we could write a little blurb that says, here are the edits or the issues that are still under discussion, that are outstanding.
Like why it's contentious, basically.
And, or just a summary of even what the question or what the topic is. And then have them in order and just say, we anticipate we'll be able to get 1 or 2 of these per meeting. And we'll keep this list.
If you care about these, show up.
honorable. Yeah, exactly. The ones at the top could be covered in the next meeting if you have an interest and want to attend.
We need to do something like to get their attention though.
Yeah, we don't have that much space in it.
There's not a lot of space. There's also, it's easy to pass over if it's not, you know what I mean? I almost feel like it has to be
So-
specific, like, hey, do you think business, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud a little bit, but
That makes sense to me, I get you.
3.3 would be really what I want to do with that, especially because that is something we're getting a lot of feedback on, even if it's negative. we're considering allowing business owners to be members of city boards. Join us and let us know what you think and influence our decision. And if someone shows up to one, they might be more likely to show up to other ones.
Good point, there's an element of marketing.
And before they know it, they're on the commission themselves.
They know it, they're filling out an application.
You can't complain if you're not sitting here, so.
Well, you
Does somebody
know,
wanna write something up and get that to me? I mean, what is this, the 15th, 14th, 15th? I don't know what day it is.
You should be able to come up with a sentence or two for just doing the, commission post. Just do that one right now. We should be able, question. You know, should we allow business owners in the city that aren't residents, be allowed to be on this?
should non-resident business owners
That was not a
be
sentence.
board eligible?
It was.
knew where you were
it was
going.
doing its
I know how hard it
I
is.
got lost halfway through.
Should non-resident business owners.
So non-resident business owners. Owners be allowed to serve on city boards?
And then what's the call to action for them to respond to that? So they could read that and
Maybe
go,
the
"Oh."
question is, do you have an opinion?
No. Let us know at,
Yeah, let us know.
Do you wanna do this, the CRC, you want the survey? I think we should put the email address in there too.
Okay.
Cause some people hear survey and they're like, oh, I don't wanna sit through a whole survey.
yeah, just put a CRC at, that's what we went with, right? CRC at cityofbigrapids.org.
Seven? Oh, no. I don't know
Nobody's
what
there.
time we're meeting anymore.
Anyone know what day the next?
The calendar.
That was fast.
Put on the agenda.
Yeah, the 11th.
Instead of we, technically, wouldn't be allowing it, should, the city charter,
I mean, we can just,
Should non-resident business owners be allowed to?
And then let
Or
the
be
Charter Revision
eligible.
Commission know.
yeah.
Make it personal like that.
mm-hmm. The survey, we have or the QR code, does that go to the survey or to our website?
It goes to our website, or,
Yeah, the QR code on the little bookmarkers doesn't do anything except brings up the pictures of the commission.
Did you look at it on a computer, or is that on your phone?
I did it on my phone, I did it on my iPad, it did both the same thing.
Yeah, you gotta scroll down past the,
I tried.
Yeah,
on there.
I've had issues with the city website on my phone.
On your phone, it's not optimized for mobile at all.
And-
On the computer, if you do it on a computer, it comes up fine.
My Mac is like
Yeah.
12 years old, so, you know.
Yeah, it's an Apple, I said computers.
Yeah.
You know, if you just had a 12-year-old computer, Linux would make it like new. But getting Linux to run on a Mac is kind of yeesh. It's doable, but it's not like it is on Windows machines.
I like that, Stacy.
The computer I'm currently running is like 15. plus years old, but like it runs like a top because it's running a lightweight operating system. It's pretty amazing.
Well, I gave up my computers when I got out of work. Most of my
Did,
stuff I can do with iPads now.
I'm like, did you give them up or did you like gleefully
Oh,
abandon them?
I didn't throw them in the trash. I did mentally, I just didn't physically throw them.
You kept them around like an old pair of shoes, just in case.
No, they stayed in Florida.
The old shoes or the computers?
Shoes and the computers.
But when you go to it on a computer, it's like I really like the way the second image is skewed vertically, so I like. See that? The only time I will ever look dangerously thin.
Like,
Looks great.
I think it does too. I just think you need a,
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I mean, I think we'll be lucky if we get anybody to attend like this, but I think this is a good
It's a good approach.
good exercise and
I mean, it's clear, the question is clear on there, you know, it's not.
yeah.
I mean, if we can't get people on this topic that we know the people who are responding care about, then we're not getting.
Yeah, I mean, the other one
Put
would
on
be
anyone and then,
like the purchasing one, right? It's like that, like sometimes, you know, people care, but the people who care, they only care about one of those topics and only half of them are willing to show up to a meeting. But, I mean, I think that like, that this is a good way, like I was kind of suggesting where if we had like a party to like trick people into talking to us, I think that like, if they show up for this and we resolve it and we get through for other topics, then we've gotten them to participate in those too potentially. And that maybe for our next meeting, if we get it on the agenda, that we need to say, okay, well, what are we gonna talk about next meeting for the newsletter? Just do this exercise at the end of every meeting.
I can ask Steve to put something on Facebook too if you want. I mean, not just do. We can hit a couple, maybe even on our,
Yeah.
we have a ticker kind of on the front page of our website too, that we can change like water main break or whatever that needs to look like. I can see, it's not really emergent, but sometimes we can throw things in there too. Try and draw some attention to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Facebook's probably our best bet, really. I know that it seems like the city's Facebook page is getting, dare I say, popular.
We were talking last time or a couple times ago about TikToks too. This is the kind of stuff that would be a very good TikTok because it's a single issue. One member of the board can say, do you have a strong opinion about whether or not non-residents should be allowed to sit on city boards? We're talking about this and other important issues at the next meeting, which is, you know, information in the description.
Microphone. Quick. No, you missed your chance.
I just mean if we want to plan to do this alone. If we still think TikTok is the, I'm not sure it's our target
I don't
audience.
know, does the recording grab
It would have been,
pointed video or just audio?
so funny if Brian had his phone out and he had like ears on you while you.
Like a filter, like the big T.
Mouse filter on you.
Take a clip from our meeting. You presented it well. Let's put that on TikTok. I don't think that would sell well.
No, I think it'd be desperately boring. It's gotta be something quick,
Yeah.
up close, friendly. But if that's something we're interested in, we can cut that.
We're addicted to TikTok.
We're super addicted to TikTok. Somebody who has their own TikTok, if anybody on this group does, should be the one to record it, then they can just share it to whoever, the city, etc.
Steve said he'd record them for us. We just gotta give him a script, something to work with.
You see who just walked in the door?
Charter Revision Commission that you're welcome to.
The charter revision meeting.
Like Brigadoon, once you come in, you can't leave.
They think it's like Brigadoon. They run.
I prefer Hotel California.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I just hear the door.
I'm familiar with it.
Oh, yeah.
Who isn't familiar with it? If it was a horse, it would not be a horse anymore. It would just be like this, like a few fur strands and a pile of dust
Right, it
in a
is.
dark corner.
There's just been like, it's that stinking feeling. I'm going to have a conversation now.
Yeah.
We have further discussion on the newsletter.
I think we got this month
Yeah.
covered.
And then we can just kind of do
Month by month.
a little tickler. Other thoughts?
So did we want to go through the yellow highlights and put like a summary of issue
Let's do that.
for Ron?
That's good, and it's not breaking any new ground in the charter that we would
Yeah.
feel bad that Amy and Jen weren't here for.
Starting from the top.
Yeah.
Tony. Start a conversation. We want?
Looks like Michelle is logged in here.
Should be able to, yeah, just sign it. Or we could attribute some really controversial stuff to Michelle.
This preamble doesn't mention me. Me, Michelle. A very important person at the city.
Let's say, we plan to address this section at the very end.
For the purpose of securing the benefits. That's why we added what we added to it. And we wanted to add, I remember we wanted to make sure that we covered ethics and diversity and inclusiveness. Now I'm worrying if we want to,
I think we just want to review the additions in light of the larger
Yeah.
changes that we made once we got all the way through the document.
I thought it was more of what Ann said than covering, I think that covering values that aren't elsewhere in the document was more in like the ethics. We have, I can't remember.
Well, we did have that list of sort of,
Yeah, you're right.
Public engagement and stuff like that doesn't go under the diversity section, which is kind of why we had.
and we wanted to, I think, to look at what the final survey results were on what community values people found neutral in the city from the survey, so.
So can we just add to that note that we wanted to, don't write this verbatim. We just wanted the document to be done before we,
We want to complete the document before we complete the preamble.
yeah, so that the preamble would reflect the completed document, not a draft. I don't know how to word that.
meeting with Mr. Letzman. He took issue with this. Do we care? Are we happy with?
Let's see if Ron says something about it. If he doesn't say anything about it, I think that the arguments that we put forward were sufficient, that it stands.
I think we need to divest ourselves to a certain extent of the input that Mr. Letzman provided on some of these things and just lean on Mr. Ruddick. If he thinks it's
Yeah,
of
like-
concern, he'll point it out.
Yeah, like if he flags it, then by all means, let's talk about it. But if he doesn't,
See
then
that
like,
it's read, he'll know that it's been added and he can. Business owners and city limits. And that's an actual note, that's not like.
Yeah, that's already.
Charter, so that could be pulled out and put into,
or you could just add a comment to it that says that we perpetually struggle to fill out boards, and so we're looking for possible means of having a broader pool.
Do we want to put a statement in there, non-elected?
to bring it up for the next meeting,
Or, yeah,
because that's actual substantive stuff that we would
yeah,
want.
it's a good idea though, I mean, to
But
discuss.
yes, I agree.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Although, you know, we'll discuss it then.
Alright, so you guys wanted to, what was the wording that you guys used? Non-elected?
Yeah, non-elected, it's,
Right, are you okay?
Yeah, allergies, I think. There's baby's breath or vanilla or something in the building and I'm trying to manage. Spring sucks.
My wife with any white flowers, flowering trees, she's just going kind of crazy. It's outside and it's like, oh my God.
Yeah,
It's all over the place.
I'm like that with,
Was recommended to us
like, there's points where I'm like,
or included.
inside.
That doesn't bother
I've even had points where like, I
Review
would
for
sleep,
legality
can't
as
stop
well
sneezing,
as,
and I've like, it used to be 24 hours, and I would like get in the car,
Cough, sneezing in
drive
the
to
middle of the
Meyer,
night.
buy a brand new pillow, go back to the house, take a shower, and then go back to try to sleep again.
Sinuses.
called, why the
Yeah,
section B is highlighted.
I don't understand why B is highlighted.
I remember saying something about, is there some way that the city votes differently? Like, do we have to say that the winner is the person who got the most votes?
That might be why it's highlighted. In other words, is it necessary to state this, or can you just say, the city will fill the remaining portion of an unexpired term in the office of the city commission by election? It's implicit that an
That would be my
election
guess.
is- yeah. I think we just thought the language was unnecessary.
So is this something that we can just send to the wordsmithing committee?
I would just put a note by the highlight to say that we intend to send this to wordsmithing committee because it seems overly complicated. Then for the next one is survey.
He said he was already somewhat familiar with that.
Yeah. That's probably the main issue that he probably asked Jen, what are some issues that you're talking about? We are surveying and probably going to have town hall review.
Did you talk about that issue at all with anybody at the farmer's market, the few that did stop? I'm curious to know if they even know what the term limits are now.
Yeah, some people, the ones I talked to were all, we need term limits. People are serving too long. And then you start talking to them at the state, they start talking about the state senators and then the federal, and I try and, what about, local levels? And then they aren't quite as fierce about their opinions. And I tell them, sometimes we don't get two people running for a position. Should we be without a commissioner because nobody else wants to run? And they tended to change their mind. So I think if we can get the reasoning out, I think we'll be able to pass that with no problem.
I was just wondering if people even truly know, like unless you're really directly involved, a lot of people don't. I don't think they pay
I
attention.
think there's a couple of things. I think people, and this would be a great sort of open meeting topic. People don't understand how much work it is to be a commissioner. And so they, or they do, and they think that the only people who would want to do that have some ulterior motive. But I also think, like he says, they don't understand that it's not, this is not necessarily something where somebody is holding on to power for the sake of a party or all the other political pressures that are in play at the state level. This is more citizens they know in the community and whether or not they.
In the few discussions that I've had about it, people just were completely unaware of like the current situation. And when I explain, like, yeah, if you served for 2 terms as commissioner and then you want to run for mayor,
You only be mayor one time,
and then like most people that serve in those capacities are retired or have the time somehow to devote to it. Like by that time, you could be quite old, and then people are kind of like you said, oh well, yeah, it changes. So I kind of think that like while obviously we want feedback on it, I also think that if we can find the right wording, that people aren't going to take issue with it so long as we don't remove term limits completely, right? It's not that we want to just be like anybody can serve as long as they want forever. It's that we just want to give candidates who are the most qualified the best shot at serving the community their best capacity.
Yes, and frankly, I think we simply don't want to include, include anything in the charter that we put forward for people to approve, in the election. You know, we don't want anything to come out and jump out at them as a surprise. So we want to make sure they feel like they've had an opportunity to weigh in on this and give their thoughts. So, yeah. Good.
Something.
I know. Just the section he made reference to that uses passive voice, but we'll catch that in
Yeah.
a bigger wordsmithing process.
The city wants a higher budget. And we don't know how we're going to deal with that.
What'd you do?
The city commission
We've
has.
got ideas, but we
And
haven't
city
decided.
manager have requested.
Spending limits.
I wouldn't even
Spending
go
limit.
into what they've asked for, have requested significant changes to this process that will require a rewrite of this section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of makes it sound like we're beholden to the commission. I think.
We intend to make significant changes to this process that will require a rewrite of this section.
I think that it's important for him to potentially understand why. Like, we're not trying to hide something from here.
It's just that we haven't rewritten it yet. He'll see it when we do the wordsmithing. There'll still be an update to the document that shows what was stricken and what was added. So it'll be evident from the editing of the document.
Or flexibility, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't want him to think that's the only thing we're doing,
Yes.
but
Yeah, that's good.
I don't remember why that was yellow.
I think the question was, is this the mayor's?
Can the mayor actually do it?
Because this is specifically on the board of review.
Boot him if not the mayor.
It could be one we could ask, if that's under, because of, statute.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
But there was also a question of, is it only for misconduct or neglect of duty? Like,
Is it for,
it's like almost too specific.
right? Well, really, anything that would be removal worthy offense would be one or the other. I can't imagine that the mayor could just be empowered to, for any and all reasons, remove them. It would have to be for either misconduct or.
I think that was the case, but then there was a question of if someone doesn't have misconduct in their role as board of review, but in their greater personal life. Does that potentially cause an issue? Like if we want to separate the city from a role, and it's like too inclusive and not inclusive enough at the same time.
So you would just want to distinguish between professional misconduct or personal misconduct?
Or it could just be the mayor and along with the consent of the city commission can remove any member of the board of review for just cause or something along those
I would
lines
be,
instead.
I would approve language like that, but
Right.
my question would be, I'd prefer language like that, but do we need to spell out what just cause is in this document since it is?
Yeah.
I feel like it would just go to the lawyers at that point.
Well, it's like we can have a lot more discussion.
For,
I think that the
Not sure
issue
if
right
this
now
is
is
a
just
mistake.
summarizing our issue, right?
can we simplify to removal for just cause?
Maybe put quotes around to, from removal to just cause.
Does anyone think that there's issues with the mayor and the city commission?
Would besides them?
So if that makes sense, I think it's probably the misconduct or neglect of duty was probably really where the issue was.
Kind of my thinking.
We may have just resolved that one.
I don't think we maybe need to, we don't need to use Mr. Reddick to confirm whether or not all of those September dates are
I can pull that stuff
accurate.
up.
We can do
Yeah,
that.
I've got a spreadsheet.
Misfeasance, malfeasance, or nonfeasance. I feel like I said something about that. Lions and tigers and bears, oh my God. I'm pretty sure it was one of us, and I think it was, can we simplify this language in some way for the modern reader? Nonfeasance seems.
You lose that last comment?
I think I might have.
I think that's what happened, where it was like you hadn't finalized it, and so it jumped you back there, and then you hit X, and so now you have to
Yeah.
do it, finalize it, and then scroll down.
Can we simplify?
Did you get removed? Just cause.
Try this again.
Yeah, so it was like the three sisters of the Bates.
Oh, yeah.
Can we simplify this language for the modern reader?
I mean, would just cause work here as well?
Yeah.
Bad feasance.
Reasons of any kind.
I mean, also potentially we're missing a feasance. What if there's a fourth
And it's
pheasance
written in modern
that
English.
wasn't considered?
We need to Google that?
I think just cause, can this be simplified to just cause is a fine. So misfeasance is like you meant to, but you don't. Malfeasance is you had bad intentions in the first place, and nonfeasance is you flanked, I think.
I think that's right.
Basically the same thing as the last.
I think it's worth letting him know the date. We're trying to, we're reviewing dates for statutes and to try to simplify and organize.
Weird.
I tell you, when they're staggered, it makes it easier to. Seeing the list of people we approved on Monday night.
We will cross-reference with our city clerk's list.
What is Heather's title?
Director of Public Works.
Yep.
Woohoo! I got some Jeopardy points there.
Ding, 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 ding.
They already got that swing out, too.
I figured, yeah. I think it would be so awesome if we could get more than a swing. I was saying, it's like teeter-totter or like a merry-go-round or just like anything that a wheelchair can go on.
After we had that meeting and, you know, so the next day I walked through, I mean, playground's really nice, don't get me wrong, but people that are stuck in a wheelchair, they really don't have, you know, they can get up to this point,
I
but.
think you can just.
Then what do they can wheel around
Right, but
and that's about it.
that's about it, yeah, exactly.
It's still better than the last one.
Yeah, yeah, that place-
It's not,
Will be
it's
determined.
not much of an activity unto itself.
right, and
Yeah.
I understood what people were saying, you know, that they were able to put their kids.
Yeah,
And, you know,
absolutely. Like, I mean, my whole thing was I was just trying to like
yeah, seeing if they could,
give them as much as we could give them without
absolutely.
making us beholden in such a way that like we can't actually do what we need to do as a city.
I came in late, I don't know how long this process was to get the, so,
Yeah.
you know, I'm just worried that this could be yours too.
I mean, it like that's the nature of like city stuff. It's like bureaucracy slows stuff down.
Yep, no, I understand.
You know, it's like
This is saved. Are there any other areas that we want to have comments on?
you're asking the tin trap. I don't. Nothing comes to mind.
And nice that we push through this because then we can start on more material stuff.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah, the next meeting we have everyone and maybe even
Hillary
someone from the
Road.
public.
So what do we wanna cover at the next meeting?
I
don't
would
feel
think
like we ever have.
two things. I would hope that
Yeah, I mean,
we can cover off on at least as far into the charter as the question about non-residents serving on boards, but also that we could, review with Jennifer and Amy, our discussion with Mr. Reddick. And perhaps if he is willing to send them to us, if we can get him contracted by then, his
It's kind of, that's what we
recommended
right.
revisions or comments as well.
Especially pertaining to 4.9, because that, I mean, we don't have to go in the order that they are in the charter, but presumably if we got through 3.3,
That would be the next
the
one.
next one would be 4.9, and if we had his comments on that,
We could do sort of final wordsmithing or get it close to save wordsmithing some time.
and potentially then move on to 5.5,
Yeah.
which I don't know that we need him specifically for as much.
Anybody object to that motion?
No, I think,
And Stacy, did you send that newsletter draft that you composed out?
It is saved on the
Okay.
thumb drive for Karen.
And you knew that.
Yeah, I saw her do it. Yeah.
I'm just making sure.
Yeah, no,
I was like, oh, this tin trap is like, if I don't do it, it doesn't get done. Like, I have to do things right away.
she saved it.
Okay, awesome.
Will you be able to provide that to Mr. Reddick?
Yeah.
Once we get our agreement with him mailed out?
Yeah, I'd send it to him tomorrow, but I hate to do that until we get his contract.
Till he's actually getting paid and earning.
Mm. Asking too much for you to ask Jennifer to ask Ron following his hiring to provide feedback on 4.9?
Is it too much to ask him to provide feedback?
She asked to ask you, ask Jennifer Cochran, ask
No,
Ron.
I can
I got lost in halfway through. I was like,
I was like, what?
Just a series
I
of
was in high school.
whistles to me.
Right.
I
I can even ask him.
Because she has to ask because she's the one doing the contracting,
Oh,
right? So we won't know that she's hired until she's,
We can debrief with Jennifer and mention that to her. We probably, since we're gonna need her to follow up with the city to, or with Myers to get that contract in order.
I bet she's watching right now.
I feel like that was the sign.
And kicking on.
She's already drafting these.
It's live stream too?
it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, it's really convenient if you miss a meeting because you're ill, but you don't wanna like miss the discussion, you can just watch from home.
It's really inconvenient if you don't wanna know what your double chin looks like from the side or.
I wanna know who the fat guy is that's sitting on this side of the table.
hey, wait a minute.
At this angle, I'm blocking you at least half the time, so you're all good.
Okay.
Okay.
Any
Any further discussion on anything or announcements?
I'm working on a newspaper article. I'm gonna send it around and you guys take a quick look at it. Don't destroy it too much, but look at it. And I'm also working on a blurb for Facebook, put it on Ask Big Rapids and maybe the city page, so I'll send them both around in the next couple days and give me your input on them.
Are you writing it as a Google Doc by any chance? I'm just thinking you could potentially like paste it into a Google Doc
If you
and
wanna
then share the
send it
link to the Google Doc
Put it in
on
the
Facebook.
doc we have set up.
I haven't worked with Google Docs, so I can check into that.
If it's a Word doc or an email body, I can paste it into one and then I can just
Okay,
Send you back a
send you
link.
and
that-
you can send that
And
around.
you can, so you can post the link and be like, here's this article that I wrote for the Pioneer in case you missed it. And then you could share that to Ask Big Rapids. You wanna make sure that it says people can't edit it.
Right.
That would be potential catastrophe. Of Wikipedia nature.
So you're going to the Memorial Day Splash Park.
yes,
Are you gonna have a table there for charter revision too?
yeah.
Okay. I thought that was the plan, but I just wanted to make sure.
I spoke to Josh and he said that I just go down there and set up.
Yeah.
I'd volunteer to go to spell you, except I'd volunteer to go there to spell you if you wanted a break, but I've got a commitment.
I don't know how long it's gonna be, you know.
I think it's supposed to be from 11 to 1.
Oh, okay, so
It's not gonna be a super long time. I plan on being there too. I could at least hang out at the booth for a little bit, probably.
I figured Pam and I'll walk down.
I don't wanna be splashed though.
Oh my goodness.
They,
You're not one of those people, are you?
we drove through this weekend and people were having an absolute riot that just,
System.
there were so many kids there and they were all having a blast. It was really cute.
Awesome. Okay.
Next meeting is June 11th at 7 p.m.
Really?
7.
God, I'm looking at the.
I'm not the only one who made that mistake.
Man, I keep thinking it's 5:30 and you guys are telling me that I've been wrong all this time.
Looking at the actual time rather than the.
Right. Are we
Meeting
done?
adjourned.
all right, Parks and Rec guys, why don't we have a, Friends of like, situation with Friends of the, you know, Hemlock Park, Friends of the Riverside Park. And people that could go around and take care of wheelchair swings that don't work, or at least notice that they're going bad.
No,
Well, with the wheelchair swing, it was all driven by the city insurance.